Louise Glück is the author of 11 books of poetry, most recently of Village Life and Averno. She has won, among many awards, the Pulitzer Prize, which was for one of the most beloved books of contemporary American poetry, The Wild Iris, the National Book Critics Circle Award, the Bowling Prize, and the Wallace Stevens Award from the Academy of American Poets. She was this country's poet laureate in 2003, and she is now a writer-in-residence at Yale. Her new book, A Village Life, is a meditation on disappointment, a luminous and eerie exploration of withdrawal from the world. Written in long lines that summon a steady, roving omniscience, and with Glick's signature devastating endings, the book takes shape around the daily routines and silences of people in a village. There are trips to the market, to the central fountain. There are cafes and clinics and sunsets. We see neighbors watching each other from windows. Physical labor is happening in the fields, out in the open, but the work of the book is in the scrutinizing of private households, husbands and wives locked in mutual estrangement, teenagers on the verge of a sexuality that threatens to abstract and separate them from themselves, women approaching their aging bodies with disbelief and tenderness. As one speaker says in the book, soon it will be decided what you are. In this hovering state, prior to definition, shot through with devastation, we feel the speaker's distrust of natural beauty. First snows, burning leaves, the moon moving overhead, transformations happening in the world are not happening with any parity in the self. Those promises of fulfillment in cycles of the day and the season are blank promises. In a sense, the whole book is a vision of becoming elemental, without consolation, a hard paring down of feeling to its extreme evidence. Nothing, observes one speaker, nothing between the earth and the dark. In effect, the intense beauty of these poems arises from their refusals of consolation, their ability to capture the world in its fullness, and then the same world when the fullness falls away. Glick's village life is, quote, meaningless but full of messages. And occasionally the warm air fills with bird calls. The wind fills with silver leaves, and we are lifted beautifully and terribly out of our subterranean blindness into the currents of mystery, into discrete truths about human relationship, about who we most essentially are. Glick's gift to us with this extraordinary book is a disenchantment that lets us see. Please help me to welcome Louise Glück.
Thank you. Can you hear? You can't. I don't know what to tell you. Well, I'll do my best to read it. Should I move this thing? Okay. Thank you. I recognize the voices responding. I'll read from this book, A Village Life. I don't tend to pause between poems because I want to simulate in a reading, in a way this really can't be done, but the experience of moving through the book from the beginning to the end. Not that I can actually discipline every reader of the book to do this, but it is the vision that I have as I put it together I imagine most poets have a version of this. Tributaries. All the roads in the village unite at the fountain, Avenue of Liberty, Avenue of the acacia trees. The fountain rises at the center of the plaza. On sunny days, rainbows in the piss of the cherub. In summer, couples sit at the pool's edge. There's room in the pool for many reflections. The plaza is nearly empty. The acacia trees don't get this far. And the Avenue of Liberty is barren and austere. Its image doesn't crowd the water. Interspersed with the couples, mothers with their younger children. Here's where they come to talk to one another, maybe meet a young man, see if there's anything left of their beauty. When they look down, it's a sad moment. The water isn't encouraging. The husbands are off working, but by some miracle, all the amorous young men are always free. They sit at the edge of the fountain, splashing their sweethearts with fountain water. Around the fountain, there are clusters of metal tables. This is where you sit when you're old, beyond the intensities of the fountain. The fountain is for the young who still want to look at themselves, or for the mothers who need to keep their children diverted. In good weather, a few old people linger at the tables. Life is simple now. One day cognac, one day coffee and a cigarette. To the couples, it's clear who's on the outskirts of life, who's at the center. The children cry. They sometimes fight over toys. But the water's there to remind the mothers that they love these children, that for them to drown would be terrible. The mothers are tired constantly. The children are always fighting. The husbands at work or angry. No young man comes. The couples are like an image from some faraway time, an echo coming very faint from the mountains. They're alone at the fountain in a dark well. They've been exiled by the world of hope, which is the world of action, but the world of thought hasn't as yet opened to them. When it does, everything will change. Darkness is falling, the plaza empties. The first leaves of autumn litter the fountain. The roads don't gather here anymore. The fountain sends them away, back into the hills they came from. Avenue of broken faith, avenue of disappointment, avenue of the acacia trees, of olive trees, the wind filling with silver leaves, avenue of lost time, avenue of liberty that ends in stone, not at the field's edge, but at the foot of the mountain. At the river. One night that summer, my mother decided it was time to tell me about what she referred to as pleasure, though you could see she felt some sort of unease about this ceremony, which she tried to cover up by first taking my hand as though somebody in the family had just died. She went on holding my hand as she made her speech, which was more like a speech about mechanical engineering than a conversation about pleasure. In her other hand, she had a book from which apparently she'd taken the main facts. She did the same thing with the others, my two brothers and sister. And the book was always the same book, dark blue, though we each got our own copy. There was a line drawing on the cover showing a man and woman holding hands but standing fairly far apart, like people on two sides of a dirt road. Obviously, she and my father did not have a language for what they did, which, from what I could judge, wasn't pleasure. At the same time, whatever holds human beings together could hardly resemble those cool black and white diagrams which suggested, among other things, that you could only achieve pleasure with a person of the opposite sex, so you didn't get two sockets, say, and no plug. School wasn't in session. I went back to my room and shut the door, and my mother went into the kitchen, where my father was pouring glasses of wine for himself and his invisible guest who, surprise, doesn't appear. No, it's just my father and his friend, the Holy Ghost, partying the night away until the bottle runs out, after which my father continues sitting at the table with an open book in front of him. Tactfully, so as not to embarrass the spirit, my father handled all the glasses, first his own, then the other, back and forth like every other night. By then, I was out of the house. It was summer. My friends used to meet at the river. The whole thing seemed a grave embarrassment, although the truth was that, except for the boys, maybe we didn't understand mechanics. The boys had the key right in front of them, in their hands if they wanted, and many of them said they'd already used it, though once one boy said this, the others said it too, and of course people had older brothers and sisters. We sat at the edge of the river discussing parents in general and sex in particular. And a lot of information got shared. And of course the subject was unfailingly interesting. I showed people my book, Ideal Marriage. We all had a good laugh over it. One night a boy brought a bottle of wine and we passed it around for a while. More and more that summer, we understood that something was going to happen to us that would change us. And the group, all of us who used to meet this way, the group would shatter like a shell that falls away so the bird can emerge. Only, of course, it would be two birds emerging, pairs of birds. We sat in the reeds at the edge of the river, throwing small stones. When the stones hit, you could see the stars multiply for a second, little explosions of light flashing and going out. There was a boy I was beginning to like, not to speak to, but to watch. I liked to sit behind him to study the back of his neck. And after a while, we'd all get up together and walk back through the dark to the village. Above the field, the sky was clear. Stars everywhere, like in the river, though these were the real stars, even the dead ones were real. But the ones in the river, they were like having some idea that suddenly explodes into 1,000 ideas, not real maybe, but somehow more lifelike. When I got home, my mother was asleep. My father was still at the table reading his book. And I said, "Did your friend go away?" And he looked at me intently for a while. Then he said, "Your mother and I used to drink a glass of wine together after dinner." Before the storm. Rain tomorrow, but tonight the sky is clear, the stars shine. Still the rain's coming, maybe enough to drown the seeds. There's a wind from the sea pushing the clouds. Before you see them, you feel the wind. Better look at the fields now. See how they look before they're flooded. A full moon. Yesterday, a sheep escaped into the woods, and not just any sheep, the ram, the whole future. If we see him again, we'll see his bones. The grass shudders a little. Maybe the wind passed through it. And the new leaves of the olives shudder in the same way. Mice in the fields. Where the fox hunts, tomorrow there'll be blood in the grass. But the storm will wash it away. In one window, there's a boy sitting. He's been sent to bed too early, in his opinion. So he sits at the window. Everything is settled now. Where you are now is where you'll sleep, where you'll wake up in the morning. The mountain stands like a beacon to remind the night that the earth exists, that it mustn't be forgotten. Above the sea, the clouds form as the wind rises, dispersing them, giving them a sense of purpose. Tomorrow the dawn won't come. The sky won't go back to being the sky of day. It will go on as night, except the stars will fade and vanish as the storm arrives, lasting perhaps 10 hours altogether. But the world as it was cannot return. One by one, the lights of the village houses dim, and the mountain shines in the darkness with reflected light. No sound, only cats scuffling in the doorways. They smell the wind. Time to make more cats. Later they prowl the streets, but the smell of the wind stalks them. It's the same in the fields, confused by the smell of blood, though for now only the wind rises. Stars turn the field silver. This far from the sea, and still we know these signs. The night is an open book, but the world beyond the night remains a mystery. First snow. Like a child, the earth's going to sleep, or so the story goes. But I'm not tired, it says. And the mother says, you may not be tired, but I'm tired. You can see it in her face. Everyone can. So the snow has to fall, sleep has to come, because the mother is sick to death of her life and needs silence. I'll read 3 more poems. Crossroads. My body, now that we will not be traveling together much longer, I begin to feel a new tenderness toward you, very raw and unfamiliar, like what I remember of love when I was young. Love that was so often foolish in its objectives, but never in its choices, its intensities. Too much demanded in advance, too much that could not be promised. My soul has been so fearful, so violent. Forgive its brutality. As though it were that soul, my hand moves over you cautiously, not wishing to give offense, but eager finally to achieve expression as substance. It is not the earth I will miss. It is you I will miss. Walking at night. Now that she is old, the young men don't approach her, so the nights are free. The streets at dusk that were so dangerous have become as safe as the meadow. By midnight, the town's quiet. Moonlight reflects off the stone walls. On the pavement, you can hear the nervous sounds of the men rushing home to their wives and mothers. This late, the doors are locked, the windows darkened. When they pass, they don't notice her. She's like a dry blade of grass in a field of grasses. So her eyes that used never to leave the ground are free now to go where they like. When she's tired of the streets, in good weather she walks in the fields where the town ends. Sometimes in summer she goes as far as the river. The young people used to gather not far from here, but now the river's grown shallow from lack of rain, so the bank's deserted. There were picnics then. The boys and girls eventually paired off. After a while, they made their way into the woods where it's always twilight. The woods would be empty now. The naked bodies have found other places to hide. In the river, there's just enough water for the night sky to make patterns against the gray stones. The moon's bright, one stone among many others, and the wind rises. It blows the small trees that grow at the river's edge. When you look at a body, you see a history. Once that body isn't seen anymore, the story it tried to tell gets lost. On nights like this, she'll walk as far as the bridge before she turns back. Everything still smells of summer, and her body begins to seem again the body she had as a young woman, glistening under the light summer clothing. The last poem is called A Village Life. The death and uncertainty that await me as they await all men, the shadows evaluating me because it can take time to destroy a human being. The element of suspense needs to be preserved. On Sundays, I walk my neighbor's dog so she can go to church to pray for her sick mother. The dog waits for me in the doorway. Summer and winter, we walk the same road, early morning at the base of the escarpment. Sometimes the dog gets away from me. For a moment or two, I can't see him behind some trees. He's very proud of this trick he brings out occasionally and gives up again as a favor to me. Afterward, I go back to my house to gather firewood. I keep in my mind images from each walk. Monarda growing by the roadside. In early spring, the dog chasing the little gray mice. So for a while, it seems possible not to think of the hold of the body weakening, the ratio of the body to the void shifting, and the prayers becoming prayers for the dead. Midday, the church bells finished. Light in excess. Still fog blankets the meadow so you can't see the mountain in the distance covered with snow and ice. When it appears again, my neighbor thinks her prayers are answered. So much light she can't control her happiness. It has to burst out in language. Hello, she yells, as though that is her best translation. She believes in the Virgin the way I believe in the mountain, though in one case the fog never lifts. But each person stores his hope in a different place. I make my soup, I pour my glass of wine. I am tense like a child approaching adolescence. Soon it will be decided for certain what you are, one thing, a boy or girl, not both any longer. And the child thinks, I want to have a say in what happens. But the child has no say whatsoever. When I was a child, I did not foresee this. Later the sun sets, the shadows gather, rustling the low bushes like animals just awake for the night. Inside, there's only firelight. It fades slowly. Now only the heaviest woods still flickering across the shelves of instruments. I hear music coming from them sometimes, even locked in their cases. When I was a bird, I believed I would be a man. That's the flute. And the horn answers, when I was a man, I cried out to be a bird. Then the music vanishes, and the secret it confides in me vanishes also. In the window, the moon is hanging over the earth, meaningless but full of messages. It's dead. It's always been dead, but it pretends to be something else, burning like a star and convincingly so that you feel sometimes it could actually make something grow on earth. If there's an image of the soul, I think that's what it is. I move through the dark as though it were natural to me, as though I were already a factor in it. Tranquil and still, the day dawns. On market day, I go to the market with my lettuces. Thank you.